the jerk from making a joke about my kid that accidentally triggered my friend's marriage breakdown and caused drama at an engagement party. So my wife and I have a 5-year-old son. Our group of friends is mostly couples with kids since we are nearing our forties, and a lot of our meetings now include our entire family's kids included. This can sometimes mean a lot of adults and a lot of kids. One person in this group, Emma, a fake name, used to be my roommate in college. She was married and has her own kids, and we hang out with her and her husband sometimes in a group setting, but rarely on our own. Emma also tends to run late, which is relevant to the story. As our son is an only child, we sometimes worry that he wouldn't really learn to share or get along with other kids. To prevent this, while I love spending time with him, I sometimes preemptively nudge him to engage with other kids when we are in public playgrounds, the beach, or the pool. To that end, when I buy him a water pistol or an RC car, I often buy 2 or 3. I would get to the playground, play with him, and when another kid showed interest in the toys, I'd say, "Oh, you want to play with us?" and hand them the remote or the pistol or whatever, thus getting the kids to play together. This works great quite often, and I have a generally good relationship with the parents in our neighborhood. One day, about a year ago, my wife and I were planning to take our kid to the pool. I packed my large bag of pool toys. Emma texts me saying her husband is away that day and she's looking for something to do with the kids. I talk to my wife and tell Emma we're going to our local pool and she's welcome to join us. We're planning to head there early so she can just join us whenever. We arrive at the pool pretty early and get a really good spot poolside right by the shallows. I grab some water pistols and my son and I start playing world domination. I'm trying to take over the world and can only be stopped through the power of water pistols. It's a whole thing. My kid loves it. Soon another kid arrives. It's a kid from my son's kindergarten class there with his mom. He is, of course, welcome to join us. We know the family, and the mom and my wife are pretty friendly. So my wife says she wants to go for a swim, and the kid's mom says she wants to join her and asks if I'm okay watching the kids. I say sure, since by this point the kids are blasting each other with water pistols, and I'm just chilling poolside, occasionally calling out, "Oh no, my plans for world domination are ruined," because sometimes that's just what parenting is. Then Emma and her kids show up. She is really happy to see me, and I give out toys to her kids. All is going well. Then my son's friend runs up and asks for some other toy. I go sure thing and hand it to him. Emma goes, "Oh my God." I laugh and say, "Okay, cool, but this isn't my kid." Now, in her defense, the kid does look kind of like me, making this kind of hilarious. When my wife and the kid's mom come back, I tell them this story, and they also find it hilarious. We all have a friendly chuckle, but think little of it. Fast forward to a few months ago. I haven't seen Emma in a while. We're at a friends group gathering, and it's a good time all round. When we're about to call it a day, Emma and I are at the entrance. She's grabbing her stuff, and I'm on my second trip from the car with kids' toys, kids' clothes, dirty dishes, Tupperware with leftovers, and I call out to Emma's husband, "Hey, can you call my wife and kid over? Just make sure it's actually my kid and not some random kid who kind of looks like me." I think it's a hilarious callback. He seems confused and kind of angry. He asks, "What the hell are you talking about? Why would I call a random kid?" I'm confused too, so I tell him the pool story. He doesn't laugh. Emma doesn't laugh either. The entire thing now feels awkward. I awkwardly say goodbye, go grab my wife and kid, and we leave. Later that day, I text Emma to ask if everything is all right. I get no reply. I text again a few days later, still no reply. I get the distinct sense I messed up. I leave well enough alone. At worst, I thought she was mad at a joke I made, which was apparently in poor taste. Boy, howdy, did I underestimate the fallout of this joke. A few days ago I arrived at a friend's place and she's there. This is an engagement party, so no kids. I wasn't supposed to come but decided at the last minute since my wife was at home with our kid. Emma sees me and is livid. She wasn't expecting to see me. She only came because she thought I wouldn't be here. She does, however, take the opportunity to tear me a new one. She calls me out in front of everyone because of my joke, originally said with air quotes. Her husband was furious. From what she said, and what I gathered from mutual friends afterwards, she previously commented on someone else's kid looking like someone who wasn't his father, and that whole thing led to family drama in Emma's husband's family because in that case, that dude was cheating and that was his kid. A whole bunch of people were really hurt in the aftermath. Emma's husband was furious because he thought she would know better than to comment on kids looking like people again. This sent them down a spiral, especially because he apparently thought she told me that other family story and that I was mocking him for his family drama. When I realized I messed up, I had no idea that whole thing happened. Still, he didn't believe Emma when she told him, so they are now separated. She calls me an asshole and says I ruined her marriage. I am not a confrontation person. I apologize profusely, saying I didn't know and if she didn't want me telling the story, she tells me I'm making excuses. This is now a scene. I apologize profusely again and leave quickly, after telling the couple a quick congratulations. I am later told this was the only thing anyone could talk about at the party, and now the engaged couple is mad at me too. Emma is even more mad because now everyone knows her drama. I am unfriended and unfollowed on everything. Some friends think I couldn't have known better and that the joke was pretty benign. Other friends say it was in really poor taste to throw her under the bus. Emma's best friend, who I also know from college, thinks I did know about the thing with her husband, and now I'm just covering my own ass to get away with being cruel. It has been a few days, and some of my friends will no longer talk to me. Others think she is wrong to blame me and that the marriage was doomed anyway. Still, I feel really guilty about making the joke, and I obviously wouldn't have made it had I known the trouble it would cause. I like Emma, and I didn't want to hurt her. I also liked her husband. I'd like to say that maybe he was wrong to let the marriage implode like that because of a stupid joke, but at the same time, I don't exactly know his family drama and their history, nor the specifics of his relationship with Emma. The entire thing just kind of sucks. My wife sort of has my back, though. She thinks the joke was hilarious and actually thinks me breaking up their marriage makes it even funnier, because WTF. She also loves crazy Reddit stories, so she sent me to post this. At least I got that going for me, which is nice. So TL Drive, my friend accidentally said someone else's kid looks like me. I later made a joke about this in front of her husband. It turns out she said something like that before, and it destroyed their marriage. She confronted me at an engagement party, and apparently I ruined that too. Update, I am now updating you because the last few hours have been a lot. It turns out that when I wrote my post, I left out one critical piece of context. I thought I was a regular person living a normal life. It turns out I am Chaz, a side character in the worst Gossip Girl episode ever written. After posting yesterday, reading replies, and thinking it over, I decided to reach out to Emma one final time. Some of you thought I shouldn't, and that these were in fact not my monkeys. Others made me realize that Emma was probably in a shitty situation with her husband and his family and was actively being gaslit. Now, while we're not as close as we used to be very close. She helped me pick out a spot and let me borrow her car for my first date with who later became my wife. She was a significant part of my support system during some very rough times in my life. Despite everything, I still felt like I cared about her and wanted to work things out. This is no longer the case. From my perspective, I thought we were good friends. Then, when she met her husband, we naturally drifted apart, and then this thing happened out of nowhere. This was not what it looked like from her perspective. How do I know? Well, buckle up because this is absolutely unhinged. Last night, before going to bed, I texted her a thoughtful message. I explained that I do apologize for the part I played in ruining her marriage, and I understand she is going through a tough time. I understand if she wants nothing more to do with me, but if and when she feels she wants to talk it out, she's welcome to reach out. I leave the ball in her court. I show this to my wife, and she is practically giddy. She tells me there is no way this doesn't blow up in my face, and I should have just cut my losses like many of y'all said. Emma shows up at my house at around 7:00 a.m. unannounced. I ask what the heck. She says she really needs to talk to me. I call my wife to the door and explain this. She sends me off with this woman because she understands this can only go poorly, and apparently she is here for it. It's my own fault at this point. From my perspective, we were friends. We drifted apart. From her perspective, for the last 15 years, she has been playing some weird game of four-dimensional chess or two different games of four-dimensional chess. Apparently she had feelings for me back in college and was trying to nice girl her way into a relationship with me by being there for me when my dad died and when I was struggling with being single. She always gave everything because she just assumed I would at some point come around. You'd think that me getting married or her getting married would change that, and it did just badly. Apparently her husband knew about her feelings, which is why he always kept me at a distance. We never drifted apart. He explicitly asked her not to meet with me anymore outside of large social gatherings. That day at the pool. Yeah, that was her sticking it to him because he was away cheating on her or something, and he didn't like her hanging around me scantily clad. It wasn't just that he was upset at the joke. He was upset because apparently I was having an affair with his wife and rubbing it in his face. Makes no sense, I know. It gets worse. That thing at the wedding, well, at least she didn't plan that. I told our friends getting engaged that I wasn't coming. She asked and verified this. She wasn't expecting to see me, and they told her I wouldn't be there. But once I showed up, she decided to exploit it. She intended to have a huge scene with me so that she could tell her estranged husband and friends that I ambushed her because she broke off our affair. Our affair. Apparently, the story some people got was that she and I were having an affair, and it ended, and I was stalking her. Her husband left her because he found out. So people more inclined to believe her just thought that was what happened and wanted nothing to do with me anymore. So why did her husband actually leave? Well, some of you called it. According to her, he was cheating on her a bunch and overall not a nice person. She never actually cheated on him, but used me to pretend that she did without my knowledge. After the joke at the gathering, which may have indeed been in poor taste, they had a huge fight. As for the thing with his family, from what I gather, it was some dude sleeping with his cousin's wife or some such. So anyway, she tells me all this insanity and tops it off with that my message really moved her and we can still be friends. The reason she rushed to show up at 7:00 a.m. My message made her realize I am actually the only one who really cares about her and everyone else in her life is fake and doesn't really care. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but now this sounds really manipulative to me. I'm thinking back to a lot of our previous interactions, and a lot of them also seem like that to me. I am not a confrontation person. I was willing to accept that I messed up. Maybe some of you were right, and the joke was in poor taste. I'm a huge jerk for making it because I thought that if he knew the story, he would get the call back, and if he didn't, I'd tell him a funny story about his wife. I accept all that criticism but this. No, I'm done. I tell her I'm done with her. She can get back to her husband, leave her husband, keep any friend she wants, because I am done. I can forgive a lot, but she has basically not communicated with me for over 15 years. I was telling her everything about my life and my feelings, and I was absolutely appalled by just how much of a one-way street it turned out to be. I feel like I didn't ever really know her. Maybe I played a role in that too. Maybe I was self-centered or selfish and didn't consider her emotions or her signs. I don't know. And you know what? At this point, I don't think it matters. She lied to me so much. She lied to so many people. I just don't care anymore. I don't think there's any left of this friendship. The worst part, I just gave you this huge update, and I genuinely don't know how much of it is true. Maybe she was completely honest with me. Maybe she lied about everything, and we're still playing four-dimensional chess. Who knows? I certainly don't. And that more than anything is why this friendship is over. Because even if I could forgive everything, I can never really trust her. So that's that. There will probably not be any more updates because this was meant to be a light-hearted post, and it turned out to be a total cluster. I'm just so tired and so sad. I'm sorry if this wasn't as readable or as coherent as my previous post. This just happened and I'm just exhausted. My wife has been very supportive though. I assume at some point I'm due some well-earned "I told you so." She knows there wasn't an affair and certainly no stalking, and most of my friends probably know that too. I may try reaching out to some others because, well, I don't know, maybe they were told even worse things about me. But I am just done with this, and now I'm going to spend what's left of this week with my family and try to put this behind me. Update: after the chaotic fallout from that engagement party, I found myself in a whirlwind of confusion and regret. What had started as a simple joke had spiraled into a mess I never anticipated, and it was hard not to replay every moment in my mind. The shame weighed heavily on me, but I knew I had to focus on my family. In the days that followed, I buried myself in family life. My wife and I took our 5-year-old son to the park, made dinners together, and enjoyed quiet evenings at home. It felt good to be away from the drama, to immerse myself in the comforting routine of parenting. Yet, every now and then my thoughts drifted back to Emma. How could a light-hearted moment lead to such a rift? One evening, while my wife and I relaxed on the couch after putting our son to bed, "You know, I've been thinking about Emma," she began. "Maybe she's not the villain in this story. She's going through a lot, and perhaps she needs someone to help her sort through her feelings." I frowned, conflicted. Help her after everything? I don't want to be dragged back into that chaos. It feels like she used me. My wife nodded, understanding my reluctance. "I get it, but sometimes people act out of desperation." I sighed, acknowledging the truth in her words. I had always tried to see the good in people, but Emma's behavior had been a betrayal of trust. Still, there was a nagging part of me that wondered if I could be compassionate while also protecting my own mental space. Over the next week, I reached out to a few mutual friends seeking their perspectives. The engagement party had left ripples throughout our circle, and I wanted to understand the narrative forming around me. To my surprise, many friends were supportive. They recognized that my joke hadn't been malicious and that Emma's reactions seemed extreme. But others had sided with her, and I felt the palpable tension in the air at every gathering. Then, one afternoon, I received a text from Emma. It was short but loaded. "Can we talk?" My heart raced. Did I really want to open that door again? Curiosity gnawed at me, so I finally decided to respond. "Sure, but I need to know it's just the two of us, and I want to keep things straightforward." We agreed to meet at a coffee shop nearby. As I walked there, I was engulfed in a whirlwind of emotions, anxiety, hope, and a lingering sense of betrayal. I reminded myself I was in control this time. I wouldn't let her manipulate me again. When I arrived, Emma was already seated, her hands wrapped around a steaming cup. She looked different, less composed than I remembered, shadows lingering under her eyes. As I approached, I could see the mixture of relief and anxiety on her face. "Hey," she said softly. Thanks for meeting me. Yeah, I replied, sitting across from her. I thought it was time to clear the air. Emma took a deep breath, her gaze dropping to her cup. I know I messed up. I let things get way out of hand, and I didn't handle it with my husband maturely. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. My heart softened a bit, but I held my ground. Sorry doesn't change what happened, Emma. You pulled me into a situation I never wanted to be part of. I understand, she said, her voice trembling. I was in a dark place, and I let my feelings for you cloud my judgment. I didn't think about how my actions would affect you. Ches studied her face, searching for sincerity. What's going on with your husband? Are you two really done? She nodded slowly, tears brimming in her eyes. It's complicated. He wasn't the person I thought he was. I've been trying to figure out how to move forward. He's been unfaithful for a long time, and this whole situation has just brought everything to light, and I'm finally taking a stand for myself. But it's hard. A pang of empathy surged through me, remembering our friendship. You deserve happiness, Emma, but I can't be part of that right now. I need space to process everything. I get it, she said, wiping her eyes. I just wanted to reach out because I don't want you to think I'm a terrible person. I've been reflecting, and I realize I need to own my mistakes. As we finished our drinks, I felt a strange sense of closure. I didn't know what the future held, but I felt empowered to protect my boundaries. We parted with a tentative understanding, and as I walked home, I felt lighter than I had in days. In the weeks that followed, I focused on my family, rediscovering joy in the little moments with my wife and son. The tension of the past was still there, but it felt manageable. Emma reached out occasionally, respecting my space while also checking in, and I found myself softening to the idea of rebuilding some of the camaraderie we once shared at a safe distance. One day, I received a message from her that made me smile. Hey, I joined a support group for people dealing with similar issues. It's helping me a lot. Just wanted you to know I'm working on myself. As I reflected on everything that had happened, I felt a mixture of hope and caution. Maybe we could find a way to reconnect without the weight of past mistakes dragging us down. Whatever the outcome, I was determined to keep my family at the forefront, cherishing the life we had built together. I had learned a lot from this experience, and moving forward, I was committed to being more mindful of my boundaries and the relationships I nurtured. Final update. As the months rolled on, I found a sense of normalcy settling back into my life. My wife and I continued to enjoy our family time, and our son thrived in the environment we created. The chaos of the past felt like a distant storm cloud, still present but less overwhelming. Emma and I maintained a respectful distance. She occasionally texted updates about her support group, and I could tell she was genuinely working on herself. It was nice to see her taking proactive steps toward healing, but I kept my responses polite and reserved. I wasn't ready to dive back into the depths of our old friendship. One sunny afternoon, I decided to take my son to the park. As we played, I noticed a familiar figure on the other side of the playground demo. She was there with her kids, laughing and enjoying the day. For a moment, a wave of nostalgia washed over me. I remembered the times we'd spent together, the carefree moments of college, and the bond we once shared. I took a deep breath, torn between the past and the present. I didn't want to overanalyze this moment, so I simply focused on my son, pushing him on the swings and joining him in games. A short while later, Emma approached. I could see her hesitation, but she smiled genuinely. Hey, it's nice to see you. Yeah, you too, I replied, surprised by how natural the conversation felt. She motioned toward her kids. They're having a blast. Your son seems really happy. He is, I said, my heart softening. He loves the park. We exchanged small talk, and as we talked, I realized that while the history between us was complex, the present moment felt untainted. I was no longer the person caught up in a web of drama. I had learned to stand firm in my boundaries. Do you think we could ever get back to being friends?" Emma asked, her voice laced with vulnerability. I paused, considering my response. "I think we can, but it'll take time. I need to know that you are focused on your own happiness and not looking to me to fill any void." She nodded, looking relieved. "I get that. I'm committed to working on myself and being the best version of me, not just for my kids, but for myself too." As we talked, I could see the change in her. She was more grounded, more self-aware. There was an openness in her that hadn't been there before. Maybe we could carve out a new kind of friendship. From that day forward, we kept in touch. It was gradual, a few texts here and there, occasional meet-ups at the park with our kids. I felt like I was learning to navigate this new relationship. Eventually, we ended up at a community event together. I watched Emma interact with her kids and mine, and I saw a woman who was committed to growth. It made me feel hopeful about the possibility of our friendship evolving without the baggage of the past. As I drove home that evening, I reflected on the journey we had taken. It hadn't been easy, but I felt like I had emerged stronger and more resilient. I learned the importance of boundaries and the value of compassion, even for those who had hurt me. Our story had taken unexpected turns, but I was grateful for the lessons learned. I had my family, my foundation, and while Emma and I were not what we once were, we had found a way to be part of each other's lives again on our own terms. In the end, I realized that life is filled with complexities and challenges, but also with the potential for growth and redemption. And as I tucked my son into bed that night, I felt at peace, knowing that while some relationships change, the essence of connection remains, often leading to new beginnings.